Now here we are back at boiling point, Thor's base, and obviously I'm in my spectator account. And so I've decided what we're going to build over here, roughly, well actually a lot more than roughly, and where we're going to build it, and we are going to use this rock mountain thing over here. And for access, there's kind of two ways to access it, which we'll get to. But so one is going to connect to here, so remember this point and the general shape. What I did was I used Schematica to just copy a schematic of this lump of rock and a fair way of the ground, or actually all the way to the water, and some of the ground around it as well. And then I copied that across to another creative world where I could do my prototype. So I will show you that. Here we are on the Otlichno creative server. So we have two servers, one that's creative, which is for people to test out builds. You can see some people have been doing stuff over there. This is kind of my little corner. These are different things I've been working on. And here is the section of rock you'll recognize. The grass color might be different, yeah, but I built it over here on the creative server rather than my own personal test world, which has its pros and cons. Pros obviously being that we can kind of share it with other people and say, hey, look at this prototype thing. Cons being it's always daytime, which is a bit annoying because you can't test out how it looks in different lighting, and just generally we don't have commands. But anyway, so as I said, I don't remember what I did said because I did like 3 different test recordings and I don't remember what I said and the one I decided to keep. This is like that island mountain thing where the portal comes in, and then there's this bridge, and I used a similar design like I've got at the Drakenberg, using the kind of rickety old, but I've made this one even ricketier and older. So there's bits missing and stuff, and there's bits where the ropes come falling down. So this is our embassy building, and I've gone for the kind of old dank, old dingy sort of castle look. So I built the building and mostly finished that, but we're going to kind of visit the idea of the dragon statue together. But so this is like an embassy, obviously, and I did a bit of research onto actual embassies to try and figure out what is actually in an embassy building, what do you expect, and I kind of looked for about 20 seconds before I got bored reading about blah 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 whatever. But the main thing I kind of gathered is, well, obviously an embassy is a bunch of people from another country that come and live in your place and you can discuss things with them. So main thing the building needs to house is living quarters and I guess some kind of office space and a space where people can come and visit you. So this here, like, this is kind of the main entrance connects to the thing, but this is actually only a private entrance for the actual ambassador and the family, whatever, themselves and the servants to go into town. People who actually have to come on business have to come around to here. And I don't quite know how they're going to do that. There's going to be a path connecting to somewhere. But they come in here. We've got this lovely portcullis gate. And the Drakenshire Embassy with a doorbell. And the portcullis gate works. It's very functional. And I think that's really cool. I did see, I mean, it's a pretty common concept that, but I looked up some designs for that. And most of the ones I saw, I'm just going to turn off that. Most of the ones I saw only did it 2 blocks up. Sorry, this one wants to go up 3. And also, I want it to quickly retract because it really looks dumb that the ground has to push the gate up. So you kind of want that to happen as quickly as possible. But yeah, obviously on this world, mobs are still spawning and there's not many dark spaces, and most of this landmass is actually hollow, so they kind of fill all that, and they get a little bit annoying. But oh well. Right. So that's like the entrance you come if you have to come on business. So I've been really enjoying using B-Dub's texture pack for this, which is the main one that Thor uses because there's some really nice features. This doesn't really look so good otherwise because this is all andesite, and the polished andesite for the bricks for most part, and it has this really nice effect that it happens that you get with the random blocks and stuff, which I really like. But like the kind of things that normally like here, this is pretty much me having done that same effect manually with the slabs and the whatnot. But here you just build a wall and it does all the different types of blocks for you. And all we have to do is outline it with bricks and other things, and it's really cool like that. And some of the different colours are fun to play around with as well. So it's always nice to have a bit of a change when you use a different texture pack for a while. So it's good to have them in different areas where you can build areas that are designed to look good in one particular texture pack. So that's the castle, but we've got to figure out the dragon. So I'm thinking maybe he's got like one foreclaw up here, one down there-ish. So he's kind of like climbing up over this wall with his head sticking out here, looking towards like the city, going raw, with his mouth maybe open wide, kind of looking threatening. And then his wings would be kind of spread out. And then his back hind legs might be possibly even like one here, one down there or something. I'm not quite sure the exact gist of it, but I'm going to figure something out. So, also, fun thing, we've got different block colours, so we can experiment with using those. So, what are the blocks we can make stairs out of? I'm thinking bricks might be nice to use those, because these bricks tile together nicely, whereas the normal ones and my ones have the kind of lighter coloured grout effect, so we can't really use those. But these ones, they kind of blend together nice enough, we could maybe use those. The other thing I was thinking of is the jungle wood is a little bit greenish, which is nice because green dragons are one of the fairly traditional colours of dragons, but there aren't really any good green blocks that you can make stairs out of. So I could possibly do something like that, with maybe the birch or the sandstone as an underside. And I'll have to play around with how different kind of blocks look. So I could possibly do like that. Let's just say, do a little mock-up. I'm a dragon. That doesn't really look like a dragon at all, but you can see the colours, all that. I like the kind of scaly look of the sandstones, alright. I don't know quite how I look like the colour. It's a little bit greenish. We probably could make that work. And then for the wings, what would we use? Let's see. Well, normally I don't like the green concrete, or any of the concrete for the wings, because it just looks a bit too smooth and silky. Well, not really silky, but just kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but I don't really quite look at it. But in this texture pack, it does have more of that mottled look, which some might argue is not really what the concrete's supposed to look like, but it kind of looks alright to me. So we could maybe mix those two together. So that's the terracotta one. In fact, the terracotta one almost looks like the smoother one in this case. So I reckon those two colours for the wing membranes. And as for the wing bones, yeah, I'm really liking that colour. We've got the green. We could finally have a green dragon. And what else could we use? Possibly the dark oak? And then what would we use for like horns and claws and things? Would we go with our traditional quartz for that? Probably. Or we could go something grayer. But you can also do them out of sandstone. Alright, so I know normally I like to start with the head and then kind of build down from there. But in this case, because we've got a more organic shape, like a less basically rigid, statuic, symmetrical kind of shape, it kind of has to fit with the terrain a lot more, as opposed to just saying, I got a dragon standing on a thing. We can build the dragon from the head down and then put the thing up where under him is going to be. But this time we kind of need to work it with the shape of what we've got. So maybe we kind of need to think a little bit about the guidelines first. So, although I don't really quite know how big he's going to be either. So that's kind of hard to work out. So let's come out with a general potential idea. So I'm using lime concrete because it's nice and contrasting to everything, but it's also greenish. So we've kind of got a head around here somewhere. Although maybe the head, maybe he's kind of dipping his head down, because that sometimes looks more threatening when their heads are dipped down. We want him to look impressive and threatening is the kind of idea we're going with. And he's got his wings spread out, you know, kind of like a frilled neck lizard, but with wings instead of a frill. And he's kind of showing off, going, "Wah! kind of just demonstrating his might and power, because we are the Draklings. Right. So a head might go somewhere like here. Maybe kind of curve off just generally this way. Let's just spam blocks around and we'll worry about the fine details later. Anyway, that's kind of just the rough shape. That's very, very rough. That's rougher than I normally do. But let's use that and then see if we can come up with a nice design for a head. Right. Right. So we do got the stairs. Like, we could look up the one I did before. But again, I want this one to be a bit more wider open a mouth than usual. I say usual, than like the past ones I've done. Well, the beacon guy is pretty much open, but he's an exception because of reasons. Right. How could we do this? No, kind of really wants to be really like wide open. Possibly even have fire shooting out, or like clouds of smoke and stuff. I know, like, he's got the whole clouds of smoke over the city. I love how I'm just gesturing over where the city would be. Like, that somehow makes you understand. But, like, he's got that kind of clouds of smoke idea going on in the place, so maybe this would look good as another source of all that. Oh, that looks alright. And then it looks kind of like it's curving up. Ooh, I like that. I wasn't expecting to like that as much as I do. Alright, now some eyes. Where do they fit in? The other thing I kind of wanted to have is give him big, like, fangs. But, like, his head's a bit too small to do that. Like, if we did that... Well, obviously they don't fit in his head, but if we made his head wider, then the shape of everything else would be messed up too. Like the nose, particularly. I know it's not actually that bad, is it? And, like, that could more logically become like that. What if they were back here? Would that look alright? And they'd probably not also be sandstone. Because it's kind of like we've got some of the features of the bigger heads, but on a smaller dragon. So it's a little bit like, well, is it a big guy or a little guy? You kind of like the way that fits in there. I'm not hating it entirely. Don't know if it looks quite so nice. Alright, so we need eyes. What are we going to use for the eyes? Something that'll stand out. Like for the portal guy, I just had fire there. And we do have fire tick off, so we can do that. But remember, this is supposed to look more like we've got a dragon guarding this castle, not like here's a statue of a dragon with flaming eyes. It wants to look more, I guess, actual, I guess. Yeah, that doesn't look so great, I don't think. What other kind of lamps? Got a whole new texture plaque to play with. So we've got to get to see how all of our blocks we previously thought, not quite, suddenly look alright. Although a lot of them are the same as the vanilla ones. And especially if his neck's coming down, like it might be a little bit of a before the if that makes sense. And also horns. Does he have horns? He might well have horns. So, which side do we like best? The fat side with teeth or the skinny side without teeth? It's just... I think the fat side with teeth is growing on me. So I found that having the stairs as the fangs was looking a little bit too chunky. But so I tried a bunch of different things and different materials. And I found that these birch fence posts, particularly because in this texture pack they have this smoother texture, actually look pretty good there. So I've done that. I've tried using the acacia wood there instead of the bricks because I thought it's a little bit more pinker, maybe. And for the horns I've gone with dark oak for the moment, which is good because that's what we're planning to use for the wing bones, so that will probably go nicely together. You don't want to try avoiding using too many different colours, because otherwise things look a bit crazy. So I've kind of planned out where to stick the feet, and stuck the feet there. And looking at the redstone and sandstone stairs as the claws, it's a very, I guess, kind of pale, dusky, greyish orange in this texture pack, which is kind of good and works alright for claws, I think. So that, or possibly I'll go back to the quartz, not sure. But I've kind of got the front ones up here, back ones down there. And I've marked the spots like here with the wool where the hips are and the shoulders up here. And of course the wings come out just behind that. And so now it's just kind of a matter of, well, you've got to build the body. This is the basic shape. I've adjusted a little bit there, tapered it off into a tail, which kind of wraps around the battlement here. But again, a very rough shape and a lot less precise than I normally do. But you kind of got to work with the terrain and stuff. And so I'm kind of, going to work from there, figure out how to connect the legs. And this is extra tricky because each one is different. You can't just copy the one from one side to the other and then just tweak a few things. You've got to completely redo it. So since I was remarking on how the sandstone, you look smooth in some places with the different textures, if you don't want that, you can use double slabs instead, and they look like these ones. So that's a nice cool trick. Normally I find using double slabs for anything other than the smooth stone slabs to be abhorrent, seeing as how it looks exactly the same as the regular block, except when it has a specific purpose. And in this case it has a specific purpose, so I don't mind. But normally, like, every time in here, I just hate it when people just say, oh, we just stick two slabs together, but it's a different sort of block. I don't know, it's just one of those weird OCD things, I guess. I've just kind of mapped out the arms and it looks really stupid at the moment. It's just like these really skinny, cartoony sort of arms. It's like, with the... But yes, again, I'm just kind of figuring out the general shape of them. Or the general place where they go. So that's not what it's going to look like. But it just looks really stupid. Alright. So far, this guy's definitely looking a bit more chunkier and such than our previous two guys. Like, that's a pretty fat looking arm compared to the one block wide arm of the beacon guy. But, you kind of got to work with what fits. And that seems to fit, and it doesn't really look out of proportion too much. Maybe his neck could be a little bit skinnier in places, but I think I've trimmed it down pretty well. So yeah, that's about how I'm going so far. Let's figure out this other arm and see what happens. Alright, so now we're working on connecting up the back legs. And I've kind of got this shape happening, which I think makes sense. So it's kind of got like, well, obviously the toes are out there, and that's kind of like the heel, arc joint, whatever, up to the knee. I think it looks alright. Again, whoop, skinny leg. Alright, now we just have to bulk it up and finish up the rest of the body to match. Kind of move this bit here down a little bit more, because otherwise it looked like he was just standing on the very edge of the cliff on his tippy toes, which is not so great. I kind of want him to look like he's actually got at least fairly decent grip there. Yeah, so I've kind of mostly done the leg now. Not entirely sure about it. It looks a bit off in some places. Might tweak it a bit more, but I'll guess do the rest of the body that it connects to before making that final judgment, I think. And I guess we need to work on the other one. So the other one, I guess we're going to have a similar problem with the whole gripping on thing. So maybe it kind of wants to be like that. How does size compare to there? Yeah, probably. To be like the joint and then where does this need to go to? There. Right. And so probably needs to come out to like here or something before connecting back to there. But like that, but going to there. Maybe down a bit more actually. Maybe more like that. And then of course that would be more like that, and that would be more like that. Something like that. I'll figure it out. Alright. So I kind of brought it back this way a little bit more. Like particularly the joints, the knee and the heel there. just because it seemed to make more sense at the time. Yeah. And he's kind of got the back claw there and the 3 claws there. Because ideally this foot is kind of like sideways. Like, you know, he's holding onto that edge, but it's kind of hard to do the claws and stuff sideways because there are no sideways stairs. So I think that kind of gets it. I had to build up the dirt a little bit higher in places because there was a couple gaps where it didn't look quite right. But I don't think that's really a problem because remember, this isn't just a dragon who's landed on a cliffside and is just grabbing on where it makes sense. This is a statue of a dragon built by people who want it to look awesome. So it's okay if they can do a little bit of earthworks to make it look a bit better. Don't you reckon? Yeah, as far as the shape, I don't know. Seems maybe it's a bit skinnier down here than the other one is and stuff. May need more tweaking, but kind of want to do more of the finish it off till we get the tail happening at least, and then we might be able to see a bit more what needs to happen. And I'm also just seeing now that perhaps the tail actually does want to be a little bit longer now. Now that this guy's got a little bit fatter and chunkier than it was kind of looking like it was going to be before. So maybe instead of drooping down here, like I was originally tried it with it going over and drooping over to this side or something. And that might actually look better now. I don't know, I'll see. Right, I think I'm just about done. Well, I mean, obviously we still need to do the wings, but like basic body shape. Right. Oh, I'm not sure about the tail yet. I've just done that. Maybe could be a bit fatter in some places, thinner in others. It's always hard to do these things. And, you know, you've got to work with what you can do with the shape of blocks. What if you start that there? Did that look terrible or good? It's always hard to get things that taper smoothly because you're working with whole blocks. Like you go from 3 blocks wide to then 2 blocks wide, 1 block. Kind of works, but like, well, because you got a curve here, you can do it a bit more smoothly. Like if you're in a straight line, it's really hard because you can only go from 3 blocks, and if you want it to be like pointed straight in the middle, you can only go to 1 block, and that's just like suddenly it's a third of the size. Here you can do a little bit more with that because you can kind of go through diagonals, have different lengths as well, like 2s and whatnot. The other thing I wanted to visit is spikes. Does he have spikes on his back? If they do, they probably want to be the dark oak, I expect, but we'll see about that. How do they fit? Right, that's way off center. That's going to be awkward. It's going to be awkward no matter how we do it. Alright, so like that. They're kind of every other block. Edit. Ooh. Ugh. That. No, I do want it to be like that, but I don't want it to do that. But not like that, because then it's just like kind of wants to be exactly there or something. And we're running out of space, so that's a good idea. It's a good, when you start running out of easy places to put spikes, that's when it starts to telling you maybe they need to end pretty soon. I don't like quite how that one's just sticking up in the air. It would be fine if they were all sticking up in the air like that much. But they're not. Alright, now he's missing a very obvious thing. Or 2 very obvious things, as we said. He needs wings! So, how are these wings going to go? Obviously they attach at the back of the shoulders, which is around here somewhere. And we said we're probably using these blocks. But maybe it's time to bring out a temporary scaffolding platform planning. That's the word, planning block. And it really shouldn't matter what colour it is. Other than if it's something similar, it helps you get the general vibe a bit better, maybe. Okay, so the shoulder's like up here, and so it kind of sticks out over like here, maybe. And we could almost do the wings actually symmetrical. Or the most bulk of them. And do it, and cheat a little bit like that. I don't know. But as far as the posture go, a little bit like the one I've got on my portal. But although his kind of goes very much up, I might want to focus on a little bit more out. So he's more like it goes. So instead of being quite so much up, up, out, and maybe a bit more forwards because he's got a bit more lean to him. Well, he might, yeah. Let's just play around with things, see what happens, eh? So I was kind of liking the shape there, but realised it's a little bit too small. But then I realised the mistake I made is that I counted out one of these segments and made this a little bit longer than one of those instead of a little bit longer than both of them together. So I just need to extend it a few more blocks up and probably follow the same sort of shape. Alright, that's looking a little bit better. Not sure, that one might be a bit too curly under, but we'll see how we go. Alright, so let's go to our block palette and get our 2 shades of green. And last time I kind of replaced the bones first with the different slabs and stairs and stuff, but then like we had all that trouble where some of the slabs and stairs you had those gaps, so you end up having to replace them and stuff. So I might start by doing some of the membranes in anyway before doing that, and then change them over later. We'll see how we go. This is actually a really awkward shape to fill because like this one kind of curves upward and stretches out, whereas this one curves downwards. So you got to figure out, like, does this curve inwards or does it curve outwards to fill up that gap? And I'm not quite sure actually. So I just basically forgot about the left and right wobble and just made a flat curve going straight from there to there. And that does actually look a bit better. Could maybe make it curve in a little bit, like start with this now that I got this shape down and punch it in a bit in the middle. Maybe. Let's try that. Not quite sure what to think about that, but I think it might be okay. It does look a bit weird, but I think once we get the rest of it filled in, it'll look alright. So let's start with that. That's starting to look a bit like alright. Alright, filled in this section. Now we just need to do the one in the middle. Kind of looking alright, although this end segment does look kind of a weird shape. Because it is. But it also makes the whole thing kind of look like a weird square shape. Also feel like maybe it could come a bit further down here and arch up less so that this bit's not so thin. Maybe? I might tweak it a little bit. See if I can make it look better. That's looking a little bit better. So I brought back that edge a bit and I made this kind of change the shape a bit, so instead of curving up it now curves down. I've kind of connected that in. And I think it does look a little bit better. It doesn't look quite so awkward. Still not quite sure. It feels a little bit off in some ways. I feel like maybe it needs to actually be further out instead of over. But I don't know actually. And how much of that is just, well, that's what it would look like if the wing was actually in that pose, and that's what he's got. And how much is it just, is that a pose a dragon would do? Or, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm thinking anymore. But I might leave it at that for now, and actually work on making these not the right colours that they are. So we want to grab, what is it, dark oak, slabs, stairs, and probably blocks as well. And yeah, so I'm doing this in reverse order from what I've done in the past, so this should be interesting. Hi guys! Having a party in there. Alright, I think that's looking pretty nice. There's kind of some points where it looks a little bit wonky, but that's kind of just what happens when you load things up with stairs and slabs. You can't actually, like, it gives you options to do more shapes, but the problem is it's limited to where you can do the extra different shapes. So in some ways, things look smoother if they're all solid blocks. But maybe tweak it a little bit. I'm fairly happy with how it's turned out. Anyway, that's kind of the general shape. I guess the question is, for the other side, do we just copy that exactly and just mirror it over on the outside, or do we do it again from scratch? Doing it again from scratch could look interesting because it can be asymmetrical and have it even a different pose. but then you've got to make a whole other wing again, and that's a pain. And you probably want to make it look good again, and make it look about the same size and proportion as that one. So these are all the problems when you do something asymmetrical. Mind you, so far everything else looks alright. Well, heck, let's... how do I schematica? What I'll do is I'll take the schematic of this, put that across there, and hey, I can just have a look at, with the schematic mode on and see if it looks okay. Alright, so we'd be looking at something like that. You kind of have to ignore the red highlighted stuff. Well, actually, I can probably turn that off. There we go. I've got to be careful. Like, if we just tried to use printer mode to build this, then of course you have the problem that it's going to replace and build the side of the mountain that this cuts through. But yeah, that's what it would look like. Which isn't terrible. Kind of fits around here pretty nicely. Doesn't get in the way of the trees or anything. So that's a plus. That's the thing, in survival mode, at least I can make sure I only have the kind of blocks I need to place. But in here, I don't think there's any way. And yeah, I'd want to tweak this end side here, because that doesn't quite match up. Because that should join up to there, so I need to alter this end segment a little bit. Alright, well, I think I'm pretty happy with the result. All that remains to do now is to make a final schematic of the whole thing, figure out how much of the blocks in here I actually need to include to make sure I don't miss out on the basement sections of the castle, and then build the real thing, which will be a pain, but yeah, probably do that. Obviously I'm not going to do it this episode because I'm about to end this episode, but I will start doing that probably the next episode, unless I do something else in the next episode. I've got a few ongoing projects at the moment, but I'll work on that. And probably as I do the castle, I kind of recorded a little bit of a brief tour through it, but I think I'll just probably won't include that, and we'll actually go and give a more detailed tour as I actually build the real thing. So that'll be a bit more interesting, and I'll describe some of the thought process behind that and what actually goes on inside it, because it's very interesting. Anyway, I will call that a day and a night, and now I've got all the recording done for this episode and the last episode, and I have to edit them both, and hopefully not get bored and actually start recording the next episode before I do. So anyway, I'll bid you adieu, or goodbye, or whatever you want to say, and I'll catch you next time. This is me procrastinating and not getting around to editing those episodes.